Part 1. 4. Gateway. The 21st century is the age of information and knowledge. It is a century that is characterized by knowledge as the important resource that gains competitive advantage for companies. To acquire all these knowledge and information, organizations must rely on the data that they store. Data, the basic element, is gathered daily from different input sources. Information is extracted or learned from these sources of data, and this captured information is then transformed into knowledge that is eventually used to trigger actions or decisions. By and large, organizations do not have any problem of not having enough data because most organizations are rich with data. The problem, however, is that many organizations are poor in information and knowledge. This fact translates into one of the biggest challenges faced by organizations: how to transform raw data into information and eventually into knowledge, which, if exploited correctly, provides the capabilities to predict customers' behavior and business trends. Exercise 1. What we used to call multinational firms are increasingly becoming global firms. Among firms, what passes for national identification depends upon history and where their corporate headquarters happen to be located. But the latter is increasingly becoming a matter determined more by local taxation than by economic functionality. The recent fuss about U.S. firms moving their legal headquarters to Bermuda to get lower taxes is but one example. National identification means little when it comes to predicting a firm's behavior. Place of origin or the nationality of the passports held by the top managers makes less and less difference when it comes to making real decisions. Ownership is often not what it seems to be. Nokia is seen as a Finnish company, but more of Nokia's shares are owned by Americans than by Finns. Exercise 2. There is some discomfort in most of us that makes us reluctant to take credit for our accomplishments or to even accept a well-deserved compliment. Try an experiment. Give someone you know a genuine compliment about a quality they have or about something they have done that you truly appreciate. Often their first response is to downplay their contribution or their effort. "Oh, I was just doing my job." Anyone would have done the same thing. It was nothing. What is it that makes us uneasy about accepting credit for something wonderful we have done? We feel proud of our accomplishments and our skills, but we don't know how to take credit for them gracefully, without seeming like a braggart or a know-it-all. Exercise 3. Gordon Parker, Chairman, President, and CEO of Newmont Mining Corporation, has a very deliberate speech pattern. When I asked him about it, he explained, "People listen more carefully if they think you are thinking when you speak." I tend to agree with him. Even though people can hear 2 to 3 times faster than we can talk, most of us could stand to slow down when we speak. Hurrying makes our words seem less important and gives the impression that we do not think our ideas deserve more than the briefest amount of airtime. We appear to be rushing to finish so that someone with something more valuable to say can speak. Slow down. Allow for some pauses, some silence. People will listen more closely and have more respect for what they hear. Exercise 4. The nature of the creative professions is such that the professional activities of writers and artists constantly subject them to the danger of persecution for what they have expressed in the form of a work of art. The expression of the thoughts and ideas of the creator is central to the practice of these professions. The mind of the author provides the raw material for all literary and artistic work. At the same time, this expression is consistently subject to evaluation according to criteria of social acceptability. When these criteria become extremely restrictive, as in Soviet Russia, it becomes practically impossible for an author to create in freedom. For these reasons, it is especially important that censorship against creative expression be restrained by law and custom. Censorship should not become so powerful as to inhibit or prevent the exercise of the creative professions, or so invasive that the contribution of writers and artists to society remains unrealized. Exercise 5. Now, I am not in any way suggesting that you, dear Mom, need to follow my lead and become slightly addicted to photography or preserving your memories in scrapbooks. However, I am strongly suggesting that you take a lot of pictures of your children to document their lives and save those memories. They are changing every day. Of course, you are so busy trying to keep life together that you probably have not had time to notice. But trust me on this. You will treasure these pictures for a lifetime. Even if you cannot take the time to organize your photos, take lots of pictures. Label and file them in consecutive order in an acid-free box. Then, when you have time in 20 or 30 years, you can look back through them and enjoy the strong emotions and memories that they evoke. Exercise 6. Many students lack the life experiences to imagine that people in other cultures live, behave, and believe differently. Online collaborations create authentic ways for students to learn about places they have never experienced. For instance, a cross-national sharing between elementary schools in different climates revealed that students in one school had questions about snow, which they had never seen, while the partner students were trying to imagine open-air, year-round schools. Minor differences are not minor to students who have never been exposed to any differences at all. Given that most students will, as adults, work in international markets, the more exposure they receive to different cultural patterns during school years, the more successfully they will make the transition as adults.